This week on Talking Royals, a king, a carriage and a castle. The royals really rolled out the red carpet for President Trump this week, didn't they?
It was everything that Donald Trump wanted, I suppose.
It looks like they're having dinner inside Donald Trump's head.
It was a first for Donald Trump, and he would have loved that.
Chris and Lizzie take us behind the scenes on how to cover a state visit.
The flowers, the smell is always the thing that strikes you when you first walk in.
This was about keeping Donald Trump safely within inside the castle walls. So if you turned up in Windsor, you saw absolutely nothing.
And we're bringing a state banquet to the studio with a taste of the royal tipple. Would you like to take your sort of s'more to put on top?
Well, I don't drink, so I'm like, this is...
You're like Donald
This
Trump.
is not unlike the banquet,
Yes.
yeah.
Hello and welcome to Talking Royals. I'm Charlene White and I'm here with our royal editor Chris Shipp and royal expert Lizzie Robinson. And welcome to our guest today. We've got an American in the house, comedian Russell Hicks. Now, for those of you that don't know, we've been doing this podcast for a little while now, haven't we? A few years, I would say. But this week's a little bit special, as you can now catch us on ITV1 and ITVX as well. I'm not quite sure where we should start. It's not like there's been a lot going on, Chris.
No, it's the kind of week where not much has happened, no big personalities have been in town, so might be a quiet show.
Yeah. And you guys, though, seriously have been up and about and all over the shop, haven't you, Lizzie?
Yeah, we've been in Windsor this week and seeing the state visit up close. So we've been with the royal family who were hosting the state visit and also seeing the US president and the First Lady. So yeah, lots of details to bring you.
I think pomp and pageantry is what I called it when I was talking about it on the news during the week. And Russell, there is something about the way that the Brits do it, which is the Americans can't really do it in the same way, can they?
What a British way to say it.
What you meant was we do it better than you.
Know, that wasn't how you phrased that question before we started filming, by the way. Well, British people... Nobody is better at sort of perpetuating the facade than British people, because like I feel like whenever I watch these pomp and ceremony things, I'm like, this is just one little sliver of what the British are like. I think the state visit should be at 1 a.m. at Euston Station on a Thursday night.
Yeah, with a sandwich in your hand.
Exactly.
Yeah,
and people are just around you singing and...
Or as you said earlier, the Basingstoke services on the M3.
Exactly, man. Let's get a little real life.
That is real life. Although, to be fair, Chris, no one's eating a sandwich at Euston Station at YM. They're usually having a burger and chips or a kebab.
True. That's what it normally smells of on my train anyway.
But we couldn't get any further from burger, chips and a kebab this week because it has just been full-on glam, full-on tradition. It's just been pretty incredible.
It was everything that Donald Trump wanted, I suppose. I mean, he called this, remember, we've spoken on this show before about Donald Trump calling it a fest. And we thought, what's a fest? And he said it's going to be bigger than better than ever. Well, for the moment, as you can see, the helicopter touched down. It was essentially a big field, but it was called the HLZ or HLZ, Helicopter Landing Zone. They got greeted by the Prince and Princess of Wales, and it was just all go from that moment. And it's hard to explain. I was standing there watching them come towards me, and even I was a little bit, I hate to use the word excited, but I was kind of enjoying the moment. And met the King, of course, and the state visit was underway. But even the King and Queen, despite everything that they've seen, I looked around at one point, I think we got a little video of it, and you could see the King sort of looking from behind the window because even he thought, my goodness, the spectacle is here. It's arrived.
And what was quite interesting is I saw that you posted up online on your socials about what it looked like outside of what we could see on the TV cameras. And essentially this entire thing happened outside of the public gaze.
Yeah, I mean, ask Russell or anyone else, did you get to see it with your own eyes if you went to Windsor? Absolutely not, because this was about keeping Donald Trump safely within inside the castle walls. So if you turned up in Windsor, you saw absolutely nothing. It all happened inside the grounds. It was locked away, wasn't it?
Yeah, and they really did. I mean, they really rolled out the red carpet for him. He was treated like a king by the king. And, he spoke in that press conference back in the White House about the fest. And we were thinking, how are they going to make this bigger and better than ever? And they did elevate it. It was the largest guard of honor that we've ever seen at a state visit. There was due to be a joint fly past of US and UK aircraft. That had to get cancelled, sadly, because of the British weather. But the Red Arrows did still go. So, I think he was really, they really did roll out the red carpet.
But look at this, and look at that. I mean, who else can do the carriages and the horses? And there was even one point actually where the Beast, the famous Beast, the limousine that the president drives around in, it was following on. There we go, behind the carriages. You wait for this picture. The president and the king were already cloppeting away up towards the castle at this point. But there's the Beast travelling at the speed of the horses being set in front. It was all about the show. And it must have looked great.
It was the most incredible spectacle as well, watching those carriages come along. And it's a chance for Donald Trump and the King to have some interaction privately from the get-go, really. And Donald Trump, last time when he was here on his state visit, he didn't get in a carriage. So although we normally do see them on a state visit, it was a first for Donald Trump, and he would have loved that.
A lot of this, Russell, is, yes, it's about Donald Trump being able to do it here, but a lot of it is about how it looks to people back home, how it looks to Americans, seeing all this pomp and ceremony on the big news networks, on Fox News or whatever, on their breakfast programs. This is a big deal for him to see this kind of stuff being shown at home.
Oh, yeah. No, we love it. And that's the thing, is like, Americans only check in with the British during these kinds of ceremonies.
Yeah.
It's so unfair. Our stereotype of British people is just absolutely pristine.
You think we do this every night, every day.
Yeah. That's what they think. They think that what you just showed right there, they think that's live, actual footage of Chris Shipley on his way to work. That's what they think.
You mean he didn't come in a carriage?
Yeah. And that stuff is important because perception is everything for someone like Donald Trump, right?
Yeah. It's amazing, man. It's so easy. You would think like anybody else would have just a little bit of suspicion that this is all being put on just for the and there's just none of that awareness.
No.
Like at all. It's incredible, man. I think it's funny, like with Donald Trump, everyone is so like, what is the thing? Like, what's the thing that could penetrate his armor? And I love that his weakness appears to be British people. It's the only time.
And his ego.
Yeah, but it's like I just think everyone surrounding him should be British. It's the only people that seem to get him to act like a normal human being.
Yeah.
Keir Starmer is the Trump whisperer. It's almost seductive the way he talks to him.
What it was about putting Donald Trump in the best possible mood, frame of mind. So when they dispatched him from Windsor Castle, as they did on Thursday morning, to go and have these political talks with Keir Starmer, that he was just fizzing with excitement and happiness. And it's exactly what happened. It worked.
Now, it's interesting that Russell sort of talks about, Trump's possible obsession with the way that the Brits do things. But it is, as you said, quite something when you see it with your own eyes, any of these sorts of ceremonies. It is quite a sight to behold, but especially for you guys, you get to see it from a whole different angle.
Yeah, when you see it, you see it close up, you see them go right past you. But I suppose we see this in our job a bit more often than other people, to be fair. But the whole thing, the state banquet, that room, St. George's Hall, where they held the state banquet, and Lizzie's got all the facts on this, the 50-metre long table, the room looks pretty impressive, even when there's no banquet going on in there. There we go.
Wow.
Look, how can you not be in awe of that kind of scene? And Donald Trump clearly was. And
that's where they put the sorting hat on. Is that right?
Yeah. Here is a scene from Harry Potter. And
But that's the thing. If your only connection with British history and these kind of traditions is something like Harry Potter, to know that this stuff happens in real life at something like a state banquet in 2025 is fascinating.
It looks like they're having dinner inside Donald Trump's head.
It's incredible.
It's amazing, yeah.
And Lizzie, you've sort of spoken before because you always get to go in and have a look beforehand
Yep.
before everyone sits in there? And is everything laid out pristinely before anyone walked through that door?
Yeah, so that 50-metre table that you see there in St George's Hall is the same length as 2.7 Marine One helicopters, which you saw them landing.
I told you she had the facts.
Landing on. The table is set with more than 1,400 pieces of cutlery, 139 candles. It's adorned with flowers that have been picked from Buckingham Palace, Windsor Castle, and the Savile Garden in Windsor. And
What does it smell like?
the flowers, the smell is always the thing that strikes you when you first walk in. You're sort of overwhelmed by that beautiful smell of the flowers. And everything is so carefully and so precisely set. They start laying the table and constructing the table about a week before the state visit, and everything is measured absolutely perfectly. And you can see there the menu. Now, seasonality is key for the menu. That's something that the king is really big on. And would you like to know what they were eating?
Yeah, go on then.
So they had...
Russell especially does because he hasn't had lunch today.
So they started with a Hampshire watercress panna cotta. They then had Norfolk chicken ballotine, followed by vanilla ice cream with Kentish raspberry strawberry. So seasonality, but also playing into British cuisine there.
So that's the king's place setting. I mean, because you go in, don't you? Maybe 2 or 3 hours before the guests actually arrive. Are you not kind of tempted to pick up the place settings and actually swap them around?
That is so
But that's
cool.
the other thing you get to do. It's the first chance you get to see who is sitting where, but also who has been invited.
So Russell, were you there?
Well, I just saw a placard that said "The King," and I just thought maybe that was Trump requested that.
And then next to it was...
I wouldn't be surprised if there's just two "The King."
The King.
It was HM King Charles III.
Yeah.
Because it's a really interesting guest list, and we don't know the guest list really until the day. And in previous state banquets, we've had a splattering of perhaps very famous people, but this time tends to be more business focused. So, Russell, but my impression of Americans that live in the UK, there are quite a few of them that live in the UK who have left the States because they don't necessarily agree with the politics of the state.
Yeah.
So therefore, it would be very awkward to have those people then rock up at a state banquet, would it not?
Yeah, no, I feel like it was pretty heavily curated. Do you know what I mean? For like all the people that were there were obviously people who, probably agree with him in some manner. So, yeah, I think it would be awkward.
It's also because Donald Trump isn't impressed with fame, most of Hollywood don't support his politics in any case, but he's impressed with businessmen and women, and that's why the room was stuffed full of business people. Yeah. You can see who Donald Trump was sitting next to, and was very happy about it.
But so you get when you go there.
You can see he was very happy about it.
He was very happy. There are 160 guests invited, and as Chris says, we go around the table and you look at all the place settings, and everyone's furiously scribbling down who's sitting where and who's been invited. But it was the CEO of Apple, Tim Cook. There was someone from BAE Systems there. There was someone from the National Grid. So a very heavy
wanting
focus.
George Clooney and Brad Pitt.
You know what? I did want a little bit of that, to be perfectly honest, because it was quite nice. We had the French state visit, and Fred Siriax was there and stuff, and
Mick Jagger, Elton John.
And Elton John was there. I know that Trump isn't, as you say, very impressed by sort of big Hollywood names who perhaps don't align with him, but it does add a little bit of...
Yeah, like if you got invited to any one of those dinners, that would be the one that I'd be the most disappointed, because they'd be like, oh, there's going to be all kinds of celebrities. Oh, who's there? Tim Cook. Oh. Wow. Cool.
It's not
I wouldn't even know how to get a photo with him. I don't know,
So the other thing with the state banquets, it's the first time we sort of hear speeches from both the king and Donald Trump. And I have to say those speeches were incredibly warm on both parts. They really did talk about the special relationship. Donald Trump says that doesn't even do the relationship justice, the word special. But what I thought was really interesting was the beginning of Donald Trump's speech, where he really, really heaped an awful lot of praise on King Charles for the work that he's done.
Mr. President, Mrs. Trump, it is with great pleasure that my wife and I welcome you to Windsor Castle on this, your second state visit to the United Kingdom.
His Majesty spoke eloquently about the bond which inspired Sir Winston Churchill, and the bust is in the Oval Office right now, the beautiful bust of Winston Churchill, to coin the phrase special relationship. But seen from American eyes, the word special does not begin to do it justice.
And Donald Trump mentioned it there, the second state visit, because Donald Trump knows that no other elected leader anywhere in the world has ever had 2 state visits to the UK.
Now, one thing that there's quite a fascination here, I'm not sure if it's the same when it comes to the American media, it's always about what they've been wearing. And what's Kate been wearing? And what's Melania been wearing? There's like a constant obsession.
We have got to talk about the dress that she wore to the state banquet, because I think we'll all agree she looked incredible. And like that Philippa Lepley couture gown. Again, she is, that's a British designer. She is supporting, British fashion. And the tiara that she's wearing, that is the Lover's Knot tiara, something that was sort of synonymous with Princess Diana. She wore that a lot. And I think...
Trump was loving it. Trump was howling.
Yeah, what was it that Trump said?
He said, how she looked radiant and healthy and beautiful.
Him and Melania were having a spat that night. He just kept saying things probably all throughout the night. You see that? Why can't you wear something like that?
Well, I mean,
tiara.
She definitely did
Couple of weeks,
take the eyes of all the press that night, because it was just it was a stunning, and what a lot of people may not realise, and I'm not sure what planet you're on if you don't realise, is she's under so much scrutiny about what she wears, what's her hair like, and all of that stuff. So in those moments where she's walking through those doors and she knows that the world's press will be on her, she has to have a good idea of whether or not it's going to be a positive thing or a negative thing. And I think she managed to pull that off.
I think she looked
and a lot of people
incredible.
said she did look like a future queen at that point.
Yeah.
And this, the fashion, I know you sort of joke about what does the fashion mean, but it does. Like what they wear, you can read a lot into it, and what she's saying and what she's supporting by wearing British designers.
What was really lovely, because we had, and that's where you were, Lizzie, where it was Kate and Melania were hanging out with the Squirrel Scouts and eating honey sandwiches and playing games with them. And what I think was really lovely from us, and I'm not sure if it would have reflected in the same way in the press in the States, was just how relaxed and at ease Melania became when she was hanging out with the kids.
Yeah, so Thursday was sort of Ladies' Day. Donald Trump, he paid farewell to the king, called the king a great gentleman and a great king, and then off he went to Chequers. And Melania stayed at Windsor and she spent some time with the Queen. She got shown Queen Mary's doll's house in the Royal Library, and then she came and joined the Princess of Wales in the gardens of Frogmore House, and this is the engagement that I covered. And they were with the Scouts. The Princess of Wales is the joint president of the Scouts, and these are squirrels, so they are the youngest members of the Scouts. They're
that's
about
Dwayne Field,
4,
who's the chief scout.
And the children were about 4 to 6, and they really got stuck in, Melania and the princess. They were there doing bug hotels. You saw the parachute there with the balls, making animals out of leaves that the children had gathered that morning, and then they had a little picnic. And the Princess of Wales had given some honey from Anne Hall. She keeps bees at Anne Hall, so there was honey in the sandwiches. And then Melania brought the children pots of honey from the White House. And no, before you ask, I didn't manage to scavenge you a pot.
It's like you don't know what your role here is.
I'm sorry, I tried.
To just try and take stuff so we'll be able to sample it ourselves.
But this is all about
it's very relaxed, and I think there was a lot of chat about sort of the men doing business and the women playing with the children.
I agree. I mean, the optics of that was like, men are going to go off and talk politics with women look at dolls' houses and have sandwiches. But you're right.
It's part of the soft power, right?
It is the soft power, and we hear that not only do you have to keep Donald Trump happy, you also have to keep the First Lady happy. So when they both leave, they've got this wonderful impression of the UK.
Does she do stuff like that in the States, like play around with children in gardens and stuff like that?
No. I don't think so. Yeah, I mean...
She was really good. There was one little girl, Mabel, took a real shine to her and kept sitting on her lap. Yeah, kept sitting on her lap.
Seeing her like this, I thought was really nice.
Well, on day one, we weren't sure that she was there because she spent the whole time under her hat, and I actually couldn't. I don't think we saw her face at all. What I thought was quite nice was just seeing her in the most relaxed setting that I've ever seen her, in that garden with the Scouts. Sitting at a mini table at one point, just crouched up, having a.
I did think that was really unfair to put the First Lady in probably the smallest plastic chair that they could find at Windsor.
The plastic chairs you get in primary school.
Yeah, and watching her up close, she seemed, genuinely like she was relaxed and having a good time, and early years
but
is
there's
really
cameras around. I mean,
true.
I'm acting like I'm relaxed and having a good time right now.
But you're having the best time, Russell. You're having the best time possible.
It was a joke. It was a
No,
joke.
I don't.
am, yeah.
No, but
I mean, every time the camera's off Shipley, he keeps looking at me saying, "This is my time."
I love this new name.
I'm
I picked up.
so calling you Shipley.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, before we were in the green room, and he took me aside and he said, "Listen, buddy, I'm the captain of this ship." And it's something of it, yeah.
I'm glad he said that to something else, because I literally have him whispering that in my ear on a weekly basis.
The Thursday morning, as Lizzie said, the Queen was involved first, and then Kate was. But if you think about the future, Kate is going to be a future queen, and she's going to have to do the job of, entertaining wives, perhaps even husbands. If America ever elects a female president, there'll be a first gentleman for her too.
It does seem antiquated, though. It does seem a bit like when they're like, "Oh, we're going to go talk business. You guys go do that." But essentially, they built a Donald Trump fun park that day, and I think that would be part of it.
Yeah.
The Donald Trump
Yeah,
amusement
that's
park
true.
would have and the men go off and do business, and then you guys go over and just make a picnic. So,
And that is sort of optics wise, I think, especially online, that's what a lot of the chatter have been about, is just how the optics didn't really look that great that day when it came to what the men were doing, what the women were doing. But
I have to say,
essentially,
Kate,
it's a soft power situation,
Right.
like we've spoken about so many times before. It's this sort of thing helps with a mutually beneficial relationship, right?
Yeah, and the Princess and Melania are on the front page of a lot of the UK papers. It was sort of the picture opportunity of the day. It was playing in very much into the things that the Princess really cares about, which is early years. It's about being outside in nature and, getting your hands dirty.
I don't want this to be completely dominated by the state visit, because
Not that Donald Trump has dominated the news agenda this week at all.
I know, but this week was not only about him. This week was also about the funeral of the Duchess of Kent. And we'd spoken about the Duchess of Kent when we found out about her death a couple of weeks ago. I think there's lots of people that learned so much about her that perhaps they didn't know before, and her secret job as a music teacher and all of that stuff, and the things that she fought for. But what was really beautiful this week, and I think a lot of people possibly weren't expecting, is so many of the royals turned out for her funeral this week.
Yeah, it is quite unusual to see that many members of the royal family, and yes, there are lots of them if you count them all up, all in one place at the same time. And the other interesting thing, of course, was this was the first ever royal funeral at Westminster Cathedral, which is the mother church of all Catholics of England and Wales. And the King being there as head of the Anglican Church is significant. It is interesting. So, yes, seeing them all together for that moment was quite something.
And of course, she had converted to Catholicism later on in her life, and that's why it was at the cathedral rather than being at the abbey. Now, one thing that all the papers have picked up on after the ceremony was Prince Andrew.
Yes.
Talking to Prince William, or trying to talk.
Well, let's have a look at the picture, because we were a little bit surprised that Prince Andrew was there. And actually, there was a crowd behind us, wasn't there, Lizzie? And when Prince Andrew got out of the car at the beginning, there was a kind of murmur. But look, there he is trying to talk to Prince William, who's standing behind Kate there. Chat, chat, chat. Prince William literally ignores him, says nothing. And then, then they stand and they look forward. And that went on for another minute or two. William did not want to engage with his uncle Andrew.
In public.
In public? Well, I think that probably go from what we hear, he's not a great fan in private either.
Oh, okay.
Yes, Prince Andrew's allowed to go to these events because it's a family occasion. He is still a member of the family. But as for, as for being the one frozen out of conversations, where you can see how that happened.
So, Russell, this is the first time that you have joined us on this podcast. And we
I am having fun, by the way.
You are? Oh, I see.
I am.
Fun.
He keeps having to repeat it.
Yeah.
Well, again.
We have given you a free mug of water.
I mean, what more do you want?
Can you ask
Yeah.
for? But I'm going to give you some more.
Okay.
Because we have a tradition on this podcast that every time there is a state visit, there is a state banquet. And every time there's a state banquet, they create a special cocktail merging whichever country is visiting. They compare that to... They put something together, they mix it
It's
with
called
something that's
mixing, yeah.
British,
Okay.
and then we make a cocktail. So every time that happens, we recreate the cocktail.
Okay.
So we have got a team that is currently attempting to recreate the cocktail. So we're going to be able to have a sip of that in just a bit. But whilst that gets finished off, I thought for our archive section this week, we could take take a look at previous American state visits, state banquets, and see how they compare to the one we just had this week?
Yeah, this is the point where Russell stands up and starts saluting with all his presidents. So here we've got Barack
Yeah, we've
Obama.
got
The
Obama.
interesting
There he
thing
is.
The Clinton wasn't a state visit. There aren't that many. And the key one, the first one, was Ronald Reagan in 1982. And you'll see the famous picture of them on their horseback. There we are, Ronald Reagan and the Queen in 82. That was, since the revolution, by the way, since they kicked us out of America, that was the first state visit. So this one of Woodrow Wilson wasn't. It was just the first official visit. But there's a difference, of course, between state visits and official ones. But there's only been Ronald Reagan, George H.W. Bush, Barack Obama, and then obviously Donald Trump, as he keeps reminding everyone, twice.
Now, you know how we don't really like throwing anything away? The carriages, like the gold carriages that they would have used in the earlier American state visits, will it still be the same ones that we used this week for Trump? Because we tend to reuse things a lot.
Well, you reuse things, but every so often they build a new carriage. Like there was a new one built for some of the Queen's Jubilees. And of course, there was on Donald Trump's previous state visit that famous shot now where, you know, she is meant to walk behind him because it is a guard of honour for the visiting president. But there was that sort of awkward moment where he sort of cut behind the Queen, the late Queen, and then she sort of got around the other side of him. So that's what everyone remembers from Donald's last state visit in 2019.
The thing with these royals is they've done it all before, they've seen it all before, and they're incredibly good at letting this stuff wash over them, and they quite like it when things go wrong.
I'd say there's very British quality.
Yeah.
You know, we won't be annoyed at you to your face, but you will figure it out eventually.
Yeah.
I can only imagine what you're going to say about me when I leave.
Okay, so let's talk cocktails. They have magically appeared, having been made by a wonderful team. And I would like to say,
You know, there's been
that
some
we've
serious
got-
journalists in the kitchen making
there are.
this.
I'd like to say, so I'm going to show this to camera just because as part of the cocktail, there were some cookies, which the daughter of our director, Justina, her daughter, Amelia, very kindly last night baked those star biscuits for us.
sweet.
I'm not sure if Mummy told her they were so that Mummy's friends at work could get drunk on cocktails, but, you know.
So this is a
details.
tradition the king brought in with the new reign, which is he gets a mixologist, as you say, to create a cocktail for every state banquet. And it sort of has a twist on, this one is a UK-US twist because we're hosting the US.
Before we partake, tell us what's in it.
So this is the transatlantic whiskey sour. So it has whiskey in it, as you would expect, citrus of marmalade, and then a pecan foam with toasted marshmallow set on a star-shaped biscuit, and that's to kind of invoke memories of a s'more.
Okay, so right, I'm going to hand.
S'more being a marshmallow on
Yeah.
top of a biscuit, or you would say cookie.
Would you like to take your sort of s'more to put on top
Yes, please.
of your cocktail? And then we can figure out.
So we pop this
Okay,
on top.
we do have to admit
That's how
though,
they had to do it.
we didn't know how to do pecan foam, so I suspect someone's just
put it on
whisked
top?
this. I think we put it on top, yeah.
Pop it on
So
top.
if you take yours,
taken
and then what we have done, someone had a blower. So we have actually melted the marshmallow on top. We've gone all out for this, guys. So
Will it sink if I put it on top?
I don't know. No, I think it
Might.
should float.
Unlike Megan's flowers,
Oh,
which
no. Does it float? It floats.
Okay,
Right.
Cheers.
It does float. So Russell, you
Cheers.
put yours on to float.
Yep.
Cheers. I'll say cheers from here, and cheers, and I will let our guest taste it first.
Well, I don't drink, so I'm like, this is.
You're like Donald
This is
Trump.
not unlike the
Trump.
banquet.
Yes.
Yeah.
So would you like to smell it?
Not
smell
unlike
it
the
instead?
banquet.
Yeah, so
Okay.
Donald Trump doesn't drink, so this was something that the guests could enjoy.
So what did he drink then?
Well,
Here you go, Mr. President. These are liberal tears.
That's
I'm not sure there's anything else but whiskey in this.
that's gonna keep us going for the rest of
right.
the day.
What do we think?
I really like it, but then I really like the French one. You know, the one with Ricard in it. I like this one too.
I'll tell you what I'll do, Russell. I'm going to
Yeah.
give you a biscuit
Oh, thank you. Yeah.
with the marshmallow.
Those are great.
There you go. And you can taste those.
I prefer this
Lovely.
to the French one with the pastis.
Yeah, you lot didn't like the French
I
one.
didn't
but
like the
this, I like
aniseed,
this.
but this is
This is
Marmalade, yeah? You said marmalade, did you?
Citrus of marmalade, yeah.
Wow.
Russell, thank you so much for joining us.
Well, thank you for having me.
Next time we will remember to ask our guests if they're teetotal or not, and make you a non-alcoholic version of the state banquet
It was
cocktail.
fine for Donald Trump at the state banquet. There were still cocktails
Also
made,
true.
So.
I would still love to know what was in his glass though, because he obviously wasn't partaking in all of the specially selected alcohol.
Yeah, he likes the Diet Coke, Donald Trump, but I didn't see anyone arrive with sort of a silver platter with a Diet Coke on it. So who knows what he drank.
I'd like to think of him as drinking a Diet Coke out of a gold goblet or something. Thank you so much. Anything interesting coming up in the next week or so?
Always. But we can't
Always.
tell you about
Can't
it.
tell you, I'm
Top
afraid.
secret.
Oh, I love it when you go on
Which is
secret
why we have
assignments.
a weekly podcast, so we can tell you
Yeah.
about it.
So I'm going to send you off on your secret weekly assignment. Russell Hicks, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
And I look forward to seeing what you're going to put on your socials, having been on this programme. But we will definitely have you back again soon. And thank you so much for joining us. We'll be here every Sunday at 12:30. And also, as ever, we'll be on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts, where you can have a look back through our back catalogue for a range of royal topics. I'm going to try and recover from what definitely suspected is pure whiskey. And I will see you next week.